brass plaque beneath my gloved fingers is cold, unnaturally so, like the metal has forgotten how to hold heat. I trace the raised symbols, crescent moons, interlocking spirals, each one a fragment of a Bronze Age lunar cycle. But the moment my gaze lingers, the characters twist, melting into unfamiliar glyphs that shiver on the edge of perception. The whiteout outside the Grand Ballroom, as shattered dome doesn't help. It's a suffocating blanket of snow, muffling the world into a single, hissing breath. My breath fogs in the frigid air, each exhale a tiny fleeting cloud against the antique brass and shadowed velvet decay. The air smells of dust, old velvet, and something metallic, like blood dried into the floorboards. Genevieve Kensington's air traffic log sits on the cracked marble ledge beside me, its pages brittle. Her entries are clipped, professional. The voice of a woman who refuses to acknowledge the tremor in her hands. Asterisk 3:17 a.m. Observed anomalous stellar alignment, 7 to 3 -9 -1. Attributed to atmospheric interference. Pressure behind eyes persistent. Dismissed as fatigue. Asterisk the words are typed with a sharp precise click of the keyboard, a sound that echoes too loudly in the cavernous silence. Asterisk 3:22 a.m. Observed reflection in storm, lashed window. Dreaded. Static obscured true form. Log entry interrupted. Asterisk the final line bleeds into a jagged smear of ink, as if she de-jerked the pen back violently. I lift the log to the weak light filtering through the snowstorm. The pressure behind my own eyes begins. A dull, insistent throb, like a thumb pressing against the optic nerve. It's the same sensation Genevieve described. I feel it now, a physical weight building, a silent scream trapped behind my eyeballs. The wind howls outside, a distorted, mournful hiss through the broken glass. But beneath it, a faint, rhythmic click, 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 click. The sound of keys being struck, a carriage returns slamming down. It's not from the log. It's coming from the shadows near the decaying velvet drapes, a sound that shouldn't exist in this dead place. I turn my head slowly. The Grand Ballroom is a cathedral of ruin. Faded tapestries hang in tattered shreds, their colors leaching into the gloom. The air shimmers with the cold, refracting the weak light into fractured patterns. I see nothing but the empty space where the drapes hang. Then, a flicker, a shadow detaches itself from the wall. A shape that is quite a cat, not quite a shadow, flowing like smoke across the floor. It mimics the Fudai click, 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 perfectly. A perfect, chilling echo of the log's keyboard. It stops near the marble ledge, its form rippling, seeming to watch the log with no eyes. My audio recorder clipped to my vest hums softly. The sound of Genevieve's final entry is faintly audible beneath the storm. Hiss, asterisk reflection in the storm. Asterisk the recording stutters, the audio bleeding into a low, wet whisper that wasn't deep before. It is in the asterisk the whisper is broken, distorted, as if pulled from the very fabric of the room then, cutting through the static, sharp and sudden as a knife slicing silk, comes the sound, free ape. Asterisk not a sound from the room, a sound fut inside the recorder, a sound that seems to tear through the fabric of the air itself. The whisper cuts off abruptly, replaced by the raw, tearing sound of fabric ripping, impossibly loud in the sudden silence after the storm. Hiss fades. The recorder's light blinks once, then dies. The last sound Genevieve Kensington recorded, before the thing in the reflection took hold, was the sound of her own world, tearing apart. The tape label, Tevicat -01 ***, is cold against Thorne's fingers, the plastic stiff with age, the ink smeared as if something had pressed its weight into the surface. A faint squeak from the cassette deck precedes the first breath of Genevieve Kensington, his voice, thin and measured, like she speaking through a mouthful of cotton. The studio's hum is swallowed by the static, but beneath it the 40 click, click, click of keys echoes, precise and unnatural, as if the tape itself is typing itself out. Asterisk, observe the shadow detach from the plaque. Asterisk, Genevieve's voice cracks, just once, but it's enough. Thorne's fingers tighten around the tape, the plaque. The damn plaque, seen it in the log, the brass twisted with those Bronze Age glyphs, the ones that melted when you stared too long. The tape hisses, and then, there it is. A sound like wet fingers dragging across glass, the whisper of something solidifying from smoke. Asterisk, reformed as a cat, black as the void between stars, but no eyes, just the dark where eyes should be. It whispered, not in words, in the spaces between them. Asterisk Genevieve's breath hitches, a sharp inhale like she, bracing herself. Asterisk the librarian remembers your father's folly. Asterisk the words hang in the air, heavy as a dropped anvil. Thorne's pulse thrums in her throat. Her father's folly. Asterisk not hers. Not yet. The tape skips. A beat of silence, then, click. Genevieve's voice returns, sharper now edged with something like panic. Asterisk. It mimicked me. My breath. My asterisk a pause. A wet, ragged sound. Like fabric tearing underwater. Asterisk. My stutter when I was 8. Mirrors lie. Asterisk the words land like a knife. Thorne's left eye twitches. For mirrors lie. Asterisk the phrase repeats in her skull. A mantra of self-denial. Genevieve had written it in the log too, but always with quotation marks. Always twin somebody else. Sappy words never hers. The tape wins on. The fooing click, click, click of the keys accelerating. A staccato rhythm like a metronome set to fear. Thorne leans forward. The studio's fluorescent light flickers, casting the walls in a sickly green glow, the kind that makes shadows stretch too long. Genevieve's voice drops to a whisper. Asterisk, it said my name. Not the one on my birth certificate. The one from the dreams. The one that isn't me. Asterisk, the tape glitches again. The audio distorting into a wet guttural growl. Like something is speaking through a throat full of gravel. Then, silence. Not the absence of sound, but a pressure, a weight pressing against Thorne. His eardrums the same dull throb behind her eyes. The pressure, asterisk Genevieve had written about it in the log. Pressure behind the eyes, dismissed as fatigue. Asterisk the tape hisses. Genevieve's voice returns, raw now. No more measured, no more twee professional. Asterisk, it's not me. It's not asterisk a sudden, violent 3AP. The sound of fabric tearing not from the tape, but from the tape but civvy inside Thorne, as if the words themselves are ripping through her. The audio cuts to static then. Asterisk it's not me. Asterisk Genevieve's scream, sharp and final, before the tape goes dead. The studio's hum returns, too loud now, too presenter like the only thing holding the world together is the sound of electricity. Thorne's hands are shaking. She rewinds the tape, her fingers fumbling over the plastic. The click, 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 click of the keys starts again. But this time, it's not Genevieve's voice typing. It's the cat, the shadow, the thing that mimics. Thorne presses play. The first sound is the foin click click of a carriage return. Then, asterisk, mirrors lie. Asterisk, the carriage return fin click is precise, sterile. A single key follows, a hesitant 20 against the silence of the studio. It's Genevieve's handwriting, looping, and precise. The ink, a faded sepia against the brittle paper. 7 to 3, -9, -1. The numbers stare back, cold and indifferent. I run a gloved finger across the log entry, the paper rough beneath my touch. Pattern, seeking fatigue. That's what she wrote, dismissive, as if a numerical sequence aligning with a celestial event were merely a quirk of the mind, a phantom limb of obsession. The ballroom looms beyond the studio. Reinforced glass, a vast, echoing emptiness swallowed by the whiteout. The compass lies on the table beside the log, its needle spinning wildly, then settling stubbornly, pointing fubbin away from the fractured starlight visible through the ballroom, shattered ceiling, away from the window, away from the sky, towards the heart of the ruin. I note its position, a meticulous detail in the accumulating data. The compass is a liar, of course. All instruments are eventually. They only reflect the decay they measure. I reference the sequence with the astronomical tablet recovered from the lower levels. Bronze Age clay, baked hard by centuries of neglect. The glyphs are worn, eroded by time and whatever catastrophe befell this place. It takes me several minutes, the studio's hum a constant pressure in my ears, to decipher the translation. The tablet confirms it. 7 to 3, -9, -1. A predictive marker, a harbinger. It wasn't a random alignment. It was a warning. The tablet's inscription, rendered in a crude archaic script, reads asterisk, when the stars bleed in this order, the earth will fracture and the mirrors will shatter. Asterisk mirrors, Genevieve's preoccupation. Her log is filled with oblique references to reflections, to distorted images, to the unsettling feeling of being observed by something that isn't quite. thigh. She attributed it to stress, to the isolation. I am beginning to suspect it was something else. Something she was desperately trying to categorize, to contain within the rigid framework of scientific observation. The air in the studio feels thick, heavy with the scent of dust and decay. A faint, metallic tang lingers, like old blood. I adjust my respirator, the hiss of filtered air a small comfort in the oppressive silence. The antique brass of the logbook feels cold against my fingers, a tangible link to a past I am slowly, painstakingly piecing together. A past that seems increasingly determined to consume me. The ballroom itself is a mausoleum of grandeur. Velvet drapes, once crimson and opulent, now hang in tattered shreds, the color leached away by time and exposure. The starlight fractures. Thin, shimmering lines of light piercing the whiteout are like scars across the ceiling, a map of some cosmic injury. I can almost hear the echoes of music, of laughter, of a society on the brink of oblivion. The pressure behind my eyes intensifies. A dull throb, a tightening sensation, as if something is pressing against my skull from the inside. I blink, focusing on the log. Genevieve's handwriting is becoming increasingly erratic, the loops and curves distorted, as if her hand was shaking. I feel a phantom tremor in my own hand, a sympathetic vibration to her long, dead anxiety. I read the final line of the log entry. 7 to 3 -9 -1 equals 20 mirror, send a mission. The words are underlined, a stark declaration of inevitability. A chill crawls down my spine, a visceral response to the certainty contained within those few syllables. I lean closer, scrutinizing the ink. It seems fresher than the rest of the entry, as if it was written recently. Impossible then. The sound. A sudden violent decay, not from the tape recorder, not from the logbook, but from within. The studio itself. A tearing sound like fabric giving way under immense pressure. It echoes in the ballroom, a brief, horrifying punctuation mark in the oppressive silence. I freeze, my breath catching in my throat. The pressure behind my eyes spikes, a blinding wave of pain. I stumble back, knocking over the compass. It clatters against the floor, the needle spinning wildly again, now pointing directly at me. The compass, dislodged, skitters across the polished floor, a frantic dance of brass against stone, its needle momentarily still, then jerks violently, settling on a new bearing. Not 20 away from the ballroom, but 40 down, 20 down. Genevieve's meticulous notations in the log deviation from predicted trajectory, possible gravitational anomaly, requires further investigation. Echo in my mind, anomaly, that's what she called it, a clinical term for something that felt intrinsically wrong. I retrieve the compass, the cold metal a shock against my gloved hand. The studio's hum seems to amplify the ticking of the mechanism within the compass casing, forcing a faint, almost imperceptible flick, click, click. It is not the regular sweep of the needle, but something else, deeper, more resonant. I examine the needle's housing, searching for a source, a malfunction. Nothing, just the relentless internal click, click, click. The log dictates the next step. Genevieve, ever the pragmatist, charted her descent. A series of sketches, crude but functional, depicting the lower levels in a labyrinth of collapsed corridors and crumbling stairwells. The decay isn't physical, she wrote in a later entry. The script is tighter now, almost cramped. It's so memory. A chilling observation, as if the very structure of this place was holding its breath, preserving the echoes of its past. The descent is immediate, the ballroom's grandeur receding into a fading memory. The air grows colder, heavier, the scent of dust intensifying, layered with a new, sickly sweetness. The whiteout remains, a suffocating blanket that obscures everything beyond a few feet. My respirator filters the air, but the metallic tang shui old blood, I suspect tweety lingers on my tongue. The click, click, click of the compass grows louder, a constant pulse guiding my way. The corridors are choked with debris of fallen plaster, shattered furniture, fragments of what were once tapestries. Each step sends a cascade of dust and grit raining down, a miniature avalanche of forgotten history. The compass needle trembles, then settles, pointing toward a collapsed section of wall. I note the position, cross-referencing it with Genevieve's sketches. She bypassed this area, marked it as unstable, potential structural compromise. I follow her route, carefully navigating the treacherous terrain. The pressure behind my eyes returns, a dull throb that intensifies with each step. I blink, trying to clear my vision, but the whiteout seems to press closer, a suffocating presence. The click, 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 click of the compass is almost deafening now, a relentless rhythm against the silence. I feel a phantom echo of Genevieve's anxiety, a sympathetic resonance to her long-dead fear ahead. A room. A small, circular chamber, its walls lined with rotting velvet. The fabric is a deep, shadowed crimson, the color leached away by time and decay. The compass is lodged in a chair, its needle frozen, pointing directly at the center of the room. I approach cautiously. My hand hovering near my sidearm, the chair is old, ornate, its velvet upholstery crumbling to the touch. The twinklick, click of the compass is emanating from within the casing itself, as if the device is reacting to something in the room. I examine the chair, searching for an explanation. The velvet is damp, almost slick, with an oily residue. A faint, sweet smell hangs in the air, stronger here than anywhere else in the sublevels. I kneel, examining the compass's base. It's wedged firmly in the rotting velvet, as if it had been there for a long time. A long time. The pressure behind my eyes intensifies, a blinding wave of pain. Then, a voice, a whisper, faint and distorted, seemingly emanating from the compass itself. Decay is waiting. It's Genevieve's voice, but warped, corrupted, as if filtered through a broken mirror. A tremor runs through the floor, a low rumble that vibrates through my bones. And then, the sound, a sudden, violent decay, not from the compass, but from the very fabric of the room itself. The velvet curtains tear, revealing nothing but an endless, swirling white. The log is a physical thing now, its edges frayed like the cuffs of Genevieve's sleeves in the old photographs. The brass clasp of the case digs into Kensington's thumb as she pries it open, the hinges groaning like a door left ungreased for centuries. The tape inside is a coiled serpent, its surface pocked with the same whiteout residue that clings to the walls of this ruined observatory. She feeds it into the player, the mechanism a metallic rasp of gears and springs, the kind of sound that makes her teeth ache. The flicker of the carriage return is the first thing she hears, not the scratch of static, not the whisper of wind through broken glass, but that clean, deliberate twin-click-a-dwin-click-click, the sound of a mirror shattering in slow motion. Genevieve's voice cuts through the distortion like a blade. Asterisk, shattered brass fixtures reflecting fuddy other. Faces Zydo, the words hang, suspended in the air, and Kensington's fingers twitch toward the volume control. The tape hisses, then glitches, the audio stuttering, as if the machine itself is coughing up blood. Asterisk, the librarian wasn't too human, too many spines, too many buys. Asterisk, a pause, the kind of pause that isn't silence, the kind that hums. Asterisk, the reflection. Sighs are the footy only thing that didn't lie. Asterisk, Kensington exhales through her nose. The words settle into the hollow of her chest, heavy as the brass compass in her pocket. She cross. References the timestamp, asterisk 3 hours 17 minutes and 49 seconds asterisk, with her father's journal. The ink there is faded, the script slanted as if written in haste or fear. Asterisk mirrors show what we fear most, asterisk it reads. Asterisk, not the face looking back, but the one twin behind it. Asterisk, no date, no context. Just the cold certainty of a man who knew he was already dead. The tape glitches again. The audio distorts into a wet, tearing sound, the fabric riff of something vast and unseen. Genevieve's voice drops out entirely, replaced by a chorus of whispers, too many mouths moving at once. Kensington's pulse thrums in her throat. She rewinds, the spool whirring like a saw, but the glitch persists, a jagged edge in the recording. Asterisk, it's me, asterisk Genevieve says, and the word fully clicks it like a gunshot. The observatory is too quiet. The whiteout presses against the windows, a suffocating weight, but Kensington's eyes burn with the pressure behind them, the same ache Genevieve described in her final log. She reaches for the compass, the brass cold against her palm. The needle doesn't move. It has broken, shattered. On the wall, the mirrors are still there, framed in brass, their surfaces cracked like spiderwebs. She steps closer. The reflection isn't hers. It's Genevieve's, but wrong, stretched too thin, the eyes black pits of static. Behind her, the librarian stands in the glass, his fingers tracing the spines of books that aren't there. The footy click of the carriage return echoes in the silence. Then the glass shatters. The brass clasp yields with a sigh, a release of pressure that feels less mechanical and more reluctant. Entry 12. The storm log. My father's script is tighter here, the ink bled slightly by what I assume was frantic scribbling. The paper itself is brittle, threatening to crumble under the weight of my touch. The air in the ballroom is colder than it was in the observatory, a damp chill that clings to the velvet drapes, a residue of something long. Frozen. The whiteout presses against the windows, a featureless expanse of white that seems to absorb all light and sound. It's as a canvas for madness. The log begins. Asterisk. The clicking. It's constant now, like 1,000 tiny teeth gnawing at the edges of my sanity. Asterisk I cross. Reference the timestamp. Asterisk 4 hours 2 minutes and 17 seconds asterisk. Against the observatory. S internal clock, roughly concurrent with the librarian S appearance. According to my father, S notes a coincidence. The odds are unacceptable. The description of Genevieve's disorientation is clinical, almost detached, asterisk spatial awareness compromised. Auditory hallucinations. The keys are familiar. Asterisk familiar. My father, S typewriter, a royal standard, judging by the description. The click, clack, of the keys isn't teat audible on the recording, only described. But I can almost feel it now. A phantom pressure against my eardrums, a rhythmic pulse that threatens to overwhelm the silence. A cat pads across the floor, a shadow detaching from the velvet drapes, reforming itself in the periphery of my vision. A mimic. I rotate the compass. The needle, stubbornly frozen, points directly funditi, not north, not south, but tifadipi through the floor. The implications are discomforting. My father's notes on the compass were terse. Deviation indicates decay. Decay isn't a direction. It's a process, a slow unraveling. The ballroom parquet floor groans under my weight, the wood warped and cracked, a map of some unseen geological fault. The air tastes like metal. Genevieve's voice returns, brittle and strained. Asterisk the librarian. S voice says, "You, re not alone." But the cat's whisper was Simi voice. Asterisk the phrase hangs in the air, a discordant note in the symphony of dread. My own voice. What does that even mean? The whiteout seems to thicken, the edges of the room blurring, the mirrors reflecting not my image, but fractured glimpses of something else. A library, rows upon rows of books, their spines unmarked, their contents unknown. The cat, as shadow stretches, elongated and distorted, mimicking my own movements with unsettling precision. Click, 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 click. Asterisk the phantom keys. The log continues. Asterisk the walls breathe. I can feel them. A slow, rhythmic expansion and contraction, like a lung. Asterisk I press my hand against the wall. The velvet is damp, cold. There, as a subtle vibration beneath my fingertips, a low hum that resonates deep within my bones. The click, clack, clack of the typewriter intensifies, a relentless percussion against the silence. I can almost taste the dust, the metallic tang of decay. I analyze the phrasing. The walls breathe. A metaphorical description, likely. But metaphors are born from something real, something observed. I scan the room, searching for a clue, a pattern. Anything to anchor myself in this swirling vortex of madness. The cat lets out a low, guttural purr, a sound that seems to vibrate not from its throat, but from the very floorboards beneath my feet. Genevieve's voice, a desperate plea. Asterisk it. It's laughing. I can hear it laughing. Asterisk the log ends abruptly. A final, fragmented sentence. The mirrors are, then, a fabric rip. A tearing sound, vast and unseen, as if the very fabric of reality is splitting apart. The air grows colder, heavier, pressing down on me with suffocating force. A whisper, close to my ear. It is not Genevieve S. It's not mine. It has a chorus of voices, layered and distorted, coalescing into a single, chilling phrase. You, re-tever alone. The symbols. They coalesce in my mind not as abstract shapes, but as echoes of a forgotten language. Genevieve's notes, scattered across the ballroom floor like fallen leaves, are a frantic attempt at translation. Bronze Age warnings. That is the initial interpretation, crude glyphs depicting stylized figures, their faces obscured, their hands raised in what appears to be either supplication or defiance. The sequence 7 to 3 -9 -1. She linked it to a ritual where mirrors consume. The air hangs thick with the scent of dust and decay, a cloying sweetness that coats the back of my throat. The whiteout outside remains a suffocating presence, pressing against the windows like a tangible weight. It seems to amplify the forfing clack of the phantom typewriter, a relentless rhythm that drills into my skull. The cat, a shifting shadow at the periphery, mimics my movements with unnerving precision. Its purr vibrates through the parquet floor, a low, resonant hum that sets my teeth on edge. Genevieve's script is increasingly erratic. The ink bleeds, the paper tears. The pressure behind my eyes intensifies, a dull ache that pulses in time with the clicking. It feels wrong, like a physical manifestation of the dread that permeates this place. The librarian Twendedy Sefton, the mirror. The words are scrawled across the page in a desperate hand, a pronouncement, not a question. The implications are complex. A spectral librarian, a guardian of knowledge, reduced to a mere reflection. The odds are unfavorable. I reference the glyphs with the observatory, archive, a digital compendium of forgotten languages and archaic symbols. The process is slow, laborious, each keystroke echoing in the oppressive silence. The 40-click-clack of the typewriter accelerates, a frantic counterpoint to my own efforts. The cat's shadow stretches, contorting into grotesque shapes on the velvet drapes. The feeling of being watched intensifies, a prickling sensation on the back of my neck. Genevieve's notes become more fragmented, more disjointed. The pressure, it's building. It feels like a mirror settling inside my skull. The language is visceral, raw. It's not the detached clinical prose of the earlier entries. It's a scream trapped on paper. The compass, still stubbornly pointing upwards, vibrates faintly in my hand. The parquet floor groans beneath my weight, a mournful sigh that seems to emanate from the very foundations of the house. I examine the sequence 7 to 3 -9 -1. It's not a random combination. It's a key, a cipher, a trigger. The numbers correspond to specific passages within the archive, passages detailing a Bronze Age cult obsessed with the power of reflections, a cult that believed mirrors were portals, gateways to something else. The click-clack of the typewriter reaches a fever pitch, a chaotic barrage of sound that threatens to overwhelm my senses. The cat's purr morphs into a low, guttural growl. Genevieve's final note. It's written on a scrap of paper torn from a larger sheet. The ink is smeared, the handwriting almost illegible. Not a mirror. The words are underlined 3 times, with a frantic, desperate energy. Then, a single, devastating addition. Tenmang. The paper tears. A sharp, ripping sound that echoes through the ballroom, a visceral punctuation mark to her final pronouncement. The fabric ripifa follows immediately, a vast, unseen tearing that seems to cleave the very air. It's not a subtle sound, it's a rupture, a breach. The pressure behind my eyes explodes, a blinding flash of white that obliterates everything. The cat's shadow vanishes. The clicking ceases. The whiteout seems to press closer, engulfing the room in an oppressive, suffocating silence. The log entry flickers to life, the static hissing like a kettle left too long on the stove. Genevieve's voice is strained, the words clipped, each syllable measured like a breath held too long. The librarian is here. The first line. A statement, not a question. The audio crackles, the sound of a vinyl record dragged across a needle, but the words are clear, too clear. The air in the room thickens, not with dust this time, but with the weight of something older. Something that shouldn't be. The librarian's presence isn't announced. It's a noticed idea, a shift in the light, a rearrangement of shadows. The brass bookends on the shelves groan as they realign themselves, the hinges of the volumes clicking like teeth. Kensington Family Archives. The librarian whispers, fingers tracing the spines. The sound isn't a voice, it's a rustling of pages, a collective sigh from the leather-bound tomes. Genevieve's log notes the titles in frantic shorthand: birth certificates, obituaries, a child's handwriting, daddy, where's your face? The compass in her pocket vibrates, a faint hum against her thigh. She ignores it. She Holloway said ignores it. The librarian's hands are translucent, fingers passing through the books like smoke through lace. The scent of old parchment and something metallic, copper, maybe, or the tang of dried blood fills the air. Your father's reflection stole his voice. The librarian murmurs the words slithering into the space between the shelves. Genevieve's breath hitches. The log captures it, a sharp inhale, the sound of a door slamming shut. The cat, coiled in the corner, unfurls. Its purr is gone, replaced by something else. A wet, clicking noise, a tongue. Hiss, tongue. Genevieve. It rasps. A voice that isn't a voice. A mimicry so perfect it makes her stomach clench. The log notes it in jagged script. The cat mimicked thuty voicey voice. She should turn. She should turn. But the compass presses harder, the needle trembling against her skin. It points to her shadow long stretched across the wall like a wound. She doesn't look. She can't. The librarian's fingers hover over a single volume, the spine cracked, the leather split like a mouth. Decay of the Reflective Soul, the title reads, the letters bleeding into the page. The librarian plucks it free, the sound of keys clicking on a spine. Click, 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 a rhythm that syncs with the phantom typewriter outside. The book falls open. Inside, the pages are blank or not blank. The white is when wrong, a texture like wet ash, like the surface of a mirror after someone has screamed into it. Genevieve's log is frantic now. The words overlap, the ink smearing as if her hand is shaking. It's a door. The librarian's laughter is the sound of 1,000 pages turning at once, a chorus of whispers. The cat's shadow detaches from the wall, reforming into something with too many legs, too many eyes. It scuttles toward her, the clicking of its tongue growing louder, more insistent. Genevieve, it hisses again. Your father's voice is waiting. She reaches for the compass. The needle jerks violently, the magnetized core burning her fingertips. The log ends there. Abrupt, the audio cutting to static. But not before the last words, scrawled in a hand that isn't hers. It's in the mirror. A fabric rips, not the sound of cloth. The sound of skin. The sound of something tearing itself apart from the inside out. The log goes dark. The clicking stops. The whiteout presses closer, and for the first time, Genevieve Kensington looks down. Her reflection isn't in the glass. It's in the book. Genevieve Kensington's final log begins with a pressure behind her eyes. Not the headache of a long shift, not the strain of focusing, but a slow, creeping floating, unfolding, as if her skull were a camera lens widening to admit more light. The air in the Grand Ballroom is thick with the scent of aged brass and something sharper, like the metallic tang of a struck match. The whiteout has settled over the elevated terrace like a shroud, but the light, what little there is, refracts off the polished surfaces of the room, casting her shadow in jagged, trembling fragments across the velvet-draped walls. The compass in her pocket hums, a vibration that travels up her spine, the needle digging into the palm of her hand. It points to-ward, toward the hollow of her chest, where the decay should be, where Tuvan should be. The brass fixtures lining the walls are not just decorations. They are Sudi watches empty the librarian's work. Each one holds a reflection, not hers, not anymore. Hers is dissolving like a photograph left in the rain. The glass is warm to the touch, the heat radiating outward in pulses like a heartbeat. Her reflection in the nearest fixture tilts its head just slightly, the movement too deliberate to be an echo. The log's pen scratches frantically across the page. It's not me, but the words blur as her fingers tremble. The cat, no Fosavend. The mirror slithers across the floor, its shadow detaching from the wall in long liquid strands. It reformulates itself into something with too many joints, too many eyes, a wet clicking sound emanating from its throat. Genevieve, it rasps, her father's voice again, but Tuirong stretched like taffy. The log notes, the cat is the mirror, the librarian is the reflection. She doesn't look down, she can't. The pressure behind her eyes is a living thing now, pressing outward, her vision fracturing at the edges like a spiderweb in the wind. The keys click, not from the phantom typewriter outside. From Sofine's side, her. A sound like 100 typewriters at once, the rhythmic click, click, click of a carriage return, the keys striking something softer than paper. The log's ink smears as her hand shakes, the words bleeding into the margins. The librarian is inside me. The compass needle burns through her skin, the metal hot against her pulse. She presses her palm to her chest. The fabric of her shirt is damp, the fibers separating with a sound like tearing paper. The reflection in the brass fixture grins, a mouth too wide, too many teeth, and lifts a hand mimicking the motion of her own. The log's last entry is written in fading ink. Hood, it's not me. The fabric rips, not her shirt hover. The sound is wet, a tearing apart of something that was never solid to begin with. The pressure behind her eyes bursts outward, her vision exploding in a shower of shards. The log's page goes blank. The only sound left is the carriage return, the final footing click of a key striking nothing at all. The whiteout presses closer, and for the first time Genevieve Kensington sees it, her reflection in the brass, now fully detached, turning its head to look at her. The compass needle digs deeper, pointing not to her chest but through it, into the hollow where the decay has already begun. The cat, no, the mirror whispers, your father's voice is waiting. The log lies abandoned on the floor, the last line still scrawled in ink that won't fade. It's not me. The fabric rips again and again, and the Grand Ballroom swallows her whole. The log's pen trembles over the page, ink blurring like blood in water. My reflection in the nearest brass fixture isn't just wrong, it's watching Botch. The glass pulses warm against my fingertips, a feverish heat radiating from its surface. It's not me, I scrawl. The words dissolving as the pressure behind my eyes becomes a physical weight, pressing outward like a tumor bursting through skin. The air tastes of ozone and old pennies. The compass in my pocket burns through my shirt, its needle a white-hot splinter digging into my sternum. It points inward, through me, to the hollow where I should be, where the decay has already begun. The cat, the mirror, slithers across the velvet-draped floor. Its shadow detaches from the wall, flowing like spilled ink, reforming into a shape with too many joints, too many eyes glinting like wet buttons. Click, 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 I. The sound isn't from the phantom typewriter, it's inside my skull, 1,000 tiny keys striking bone. Click, 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 click. Each one a fragment of my own mind disintegrating. The brass fixtures hum, their reflections tilting their heads in unison. One grins, mouth stretching too wide, teeth like shards of broken glass. Genevieve it rasps, my father's voice stretched thin as rotten string fun wrong. The log's last entry bleeds, the lig's last entry bleeds. The librarian is inside me. I press my palm to my chest. The fabric of my shirt is damp, fibers separating with a sound like tearing parchment. Havitivid, a thin, wet sound, as if my skin is peeling away from bone. The pressure behind my eyes bursts, light fractures into jagged shards. My vision shatters, polished brass, shadowed velvet, the endless whiteout pressing in. The compass needle burns deeper, searing through flesh. Flick, click, click. The keys are clicking faster, now, a frantic rhythm against the hollow where my heart should beat. The log's page goes blank. Only the sound remains. Foodie click, click, click. The final keys of a carriage return, striking nothing. The whiteout swallows the last of the light. I see it then, my reflection in the brass, fully detached, turning its head to look at me. Its eyes are mine, but older, colder. It lifts a hand, mimicking my own movement as I try to reach for the log. Click, 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 clicker. The sound accelerates, a machine gun of tiny impacts. The fabric rips again, a wet, tearing sound from my own body. Ripper, and again, ripple. The pressure isn't behind my eyes anymore. It's stood between them, shattering the lenses, the corneas. I feel myself unraveling thread by thread into the cold brass and velvet. The last thing I hear is the whisper, not from the mirror, but from the recorder left on the floor beside me. You're not alone. Then the keys click faster, a relentless, accelerating fugly click, 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 that drowns out the sound of my own disintegration. The fabric rips one final time, a long, wet tear through the very fabric of what was me. The recorder's last sound is the foink-click of a key striking air, then silence. The Grand Ballroom is empty. The whiteout presses closer. And somewhere in the static between the final clicks, a whisper echoes, "You're not alone." The keys click faster. Click, 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 click. The fabric rips. Sing, click, click, click. The recorder's feed cuts off with a single, final twin click.